for our next session, which is on the topic of promising growth, Kolkata Realty Market Opportunities. So let me introduce our session members for this discussion. The session is moderated by Mr. Parvez Khalid, Associate Executive Director, Advisory and Transaction, CBRE. Mr. Parvez is currently the Kolkata office head for CBRE and overseeing operations in Eastern India and Bangladesh for advisory and transaction services. He has close to 25 years of experience in real estate consultancy and transactions advisory, and his role encompasses corporate and office leasing, land acquisitions and dispositions, talent representations, project marketing, lease negotiation, residential sale and leasing, and investments. So Mr. Khalid, a very warm welcome to you. Let me now introduce our speakers in an alphabetical order. Thanks, Mr. Khalid, for being here with us. Let us now introduce our speakers. So our first speaker, let me introduce Mr. Ashok Saraf, Chairman, Sugam Homes. Mr. Saraf commenced the real estate development business in 1986 and founded the Sugam Homes Group in 1989, a leading name in MIG housing sector in West Bengal. Thereafter, he forayed in commercial buildings development with reputed tenants like HSBC Bank and in the construction of large housing complexes. Our next eminent panel member is Mr. Basant Kumar Parakh, Managing Director, Orbit Group. Mr. Parakh has an illustrious experience of over 25 years in the industry. His passion for an exclusive lifestyle drives his foray into premium residential spaces. The man behind Rishto Ki Mithas values relationships the most and regards stakeholder satisfaction as the biggest token of achievement. Our next panel member is Mr. Pradip Kumar Chopra, Chairman and Managing Director, PS Group. Mr. Chopra is a former governing board member of CREDAI, founder and regional chairman, Export Promotion Council for EOUs and SEZs, founder of educational institution iLead, former president, Falta Chamber of Commerce, and guest faculty at reputed management institutes across the nation. And he's also author of several books on real estate. Our next panel member, I introduce Mr. Vardhan Patodia, Chairman and Managing Director, Signum Group. As the founder of the Heritage Realty Group, Mr. Patodia drives its core values of transparency and ethical practices. He is the true custodian of the Signum Group's vision, and with 3 decades of experience behind him, Mr. Patodia brings best practices and visionary approach to the world of real estate. So this is our eminent panel. Mr. Khalid, let me hand it over to you now.
Thank you, Sapna. A very warm welcome to all our panelists. Good afternoon, gentlemen, and I hope all of you are doing well and are safe. I think this is one of the an additional thing that we ask, that we are well and safe because of the pandemic. Okay, so I'm pleased to welcome you all to the flagship event of the 14th Realty Conclave and Excellence Awards East. Thank you for taking out time and joining us. And we hope that this session would be an interesting and informative one for our listeners as well. Through this panel, we aim at exploring the theme Promising Growth, Kolkata Realty Market Opportunities. Despite several challenges faced during the second wave of COVID-19 in 2021, the sentiment for the real estate sector has improved considerably. The sector has been resilient and numerous challenges delivered on projects. All of you have stepped up, I think, on the challenges faced and have really adopted the new way of life, I would say, that we're currently undergoing. Higher vaccination, of course, has helped in overtaking this pandemic and coming out more openly and doing business. The residential market in Calcutta has sustained this growth trajectory. Some of the initiatives has been the catalyst for demand, of course, has been the low interest rates, of course, and of course the government's reduction of stamp duty to 5% and extending that till September this year is another catalyst which has helped in a lot of properties getting registered, and a lot of people who have been on the sidelines coming and buying and getting the property registered as well. Apart from this, I think the general sentiment, which whenever I speak to all of you, has been that with the work from home and the study from home concept, people are looking at an extra room, be it a study room or office room. So the demand for housing sizes has gone up. So people who had been okay with 2 bedrooms are looking at 3 bedrooms, and 3 bedrooms looking at 4 bedrooms. So an extra bedroom is a need of the hour. And this is also spur the demand, or rather relocation of people's from smaller houses to bigger houses. And so lockdown did force people to stay at home and leading to bigger apartments, as I said. So these trends basically highlight that Calcutta region is poised for a good housing sales. All these factors are going to continue for this year as well. And the way it has risen over the last 6 months, we expect the same trend to continue for at least the next 1 year as well. So on that positive note, let's begin this session. I'm really glad to be among you and a part of this session. So with this, I'll come to Mr. Ashok Saraf. Sir, how do you see this? Mr. Saraf, good afternoon. So with this, I would like to know your views on which segment are you currently witnessing the most investor segment interest in, and why?
Currently, we are seeing very good investor interest in warehousing projects, as well as the showrooms and offices which have been rented out. There is an investor interest to buy that and get the return on the rental yields.
Okay.
Also, we are seeing a good traction in the co-working spaces because the co-working spaces are giving you the flexibility to increase your office space or decrease because of the changes in the pandemic situation for the last 2 years. So especially after the third wave, we are seeing that good demand coming in for co-working spaces as well.
Yes, so definitely, so that covers, I think that's very good. That covers the entire real estate market, not only the residential. So with that, I think, Mr. Parakh, I would like to come to you, and we'd like to understand, what are some of the major trends that you see shaping the Calcutta residential sector in the next 2 years?
I feel that Calcutta residential sector has always been reasonably good, and it has been growing. Last couple of years, we have been seeing a major thrust on the residential sector, mainly in a segment, what we call it as an affordable housing, a larger projects, which has better amenities, which are, say, less than a crore rupees of a range, what we call it as an affordable. Affordable, I personally believe, is very relative. I mean, what do we say affordable? I mean, whatever is luxury for Calcutta is probably affordable for Bombay. I mean, from that point of view, the margins are less. But however, I personally feel that the real estate in those sectors, which is less than a crore of rupees, has seen a significant growth all around Calcutta. And I feel that that sector will keep on growing because you are giving a better project, well designed. The utilization of spaces are more professionally done now. Earlier we used to we lavish with the designs. Now we are concentrating on what is needed and the amenities. Overall package has improved over a few years, and it will further improve in future.
You're talking about looking at more practical designs rather than the luxury?
I would not say practical design. I think it is becoming, you have to consider when we say affordable, you can't really waste areas. Earlier, whatever is required, because, for those sector, the housing is the need. They can't be lavish. There are projects where you can have that leverage of giving a bit more. Still, you will see that nowadays in a project, we have 8-9 variants of apartments. So whosoever wants to have a smaller one, we have 3 or 4 variants in 3 bedroom. We have 2 or 3 variants in 2 bedroom. So we are addressing all the needs, which is, I think, is we have learned over the period of time, and in the way forward, I think that there would be a much better interactions. We have done our researches. The architects have done it. We have taken opinion of the marketing strategists. The people who really penetrates and understands what the buyers are looking at. So they overall, I think we are becoming more educated, and it is reflected in our projects.
Thank you. I think that's a really good insight. With that, I think I'll come to Mr. Pradip Chopra. Good afternoon, sir. Today's home buyers are much more informed. They're much more aware. I mean, you can just Google and find out everything. And so, what do you think? What is witnessing? What are the home buying trends in the Kolkata market? What is the trend? Has this trend changed over the last 5-6 years, or what is the trend that you see coming in the future for the home buyers?
See, they have always tried to keep the customers well informed. I had written a book a long time back, some 25 years back, just to make the customer very well informed to take a correct decision while buying homes or offices. Because when the customer is very well informed, it also makes our life easier, because they just select the right project and they select right builder or right locations and all that, so that there is always an element of delight, which always helps the entire industry and also enhance the reputation of the builders, because the customers are happy. The customers sometimes are unhappy because they made a wrong choice. So if they are very well informed, that's a good news for the entire industry. Of course, customers are very, very well informed, so they will definitely choose better builders. They will understand better quality of buildings. They will also understand better designs of the buildings. So therefore, it will be very challenging, or rather, the builders have to also should be able to deliver good products, because if we are not having a good design, or you don't construct a good building, or if you don't have a good reputation in the market, the buyers will not come to you. So the very well informed buyers will also entail that builders has to also keep on performing better than they used to perform in the past. So therefore, it's a good for the industry, because good products will come in the market, and good builders will be able to sell, and there'll be a pressure on the builders to be able to deliver good design, good material, good construction, and good dealings, fair and dealing. Anyway, now there are a lot of regulations, so you can't afford not to be fair. So this is what is the best. That means you have to work towards excellence, because the customer will demand excellence, because they are better informed than past. So this is the trend which will happen.
So, okay, coming to Mr. Patodia. Mr. Patodia, you have been in the commercial as well as the residential segment in a big way as well. So we would like to understand, the home buyers' age has come down. Like you're talking about trends, so the age will also come down. Earlier we used to buy house after 40-45 years, but when you see the age group has now come to 25-30, people in 30s are buying houses. So what what is their outlook when they're looking at a home? What are the specific requirements they might have which are different from which was earlier times, and what is the trend that you see for the millennials who are buying houses?
Hi, Parvez. Good connecting with you. It's a long time.
Yes.
The age of the buyers have definitely come down. So the requirement is a mixture of both luxury and health conscious amenities in the project, and they are mostly buying in the affordable segment. So as a builder, we are designing a combination of both the amenities. We are providing bigger flats, open spaces. The lobby, the club is much more fancily made. Apart from that, we are providing a lot of facilities like sports, swimming pool, jogging tracks, gym. Earlier, gym was just 1 or 2 equipment. Now it is a fully equipped gym. So they are wanting the best of both worlds.
Okay.
It has to be state of the art. It's deliver a living environment, landscaping, open spaces, jogging track. All the requirements of the generation is taken care of. They want a lot of amenities for their children. They don't want to step out for a lot of things. They don't want to go to 2-3 places for their activities. They want it in the complex itself.
Yeah, that's a trend we have seen across. I mean, even in affordable housing, like Mr. Parakh was mentioning, even in buyers of affordable housing also require some basic facilities like a pool or a gym or a club. At least those specifically are required. So coming on a different note now, we're talking about opportunities in Calcutta, and of course there are multiple opportunities in Calcutta to grow, and there's a lot of land still lying unused due to government policies. And so I would like to understand, for Calcutta, for this demand to, continue for a longer term, what support or what do you think the government can help in sustaining this demand?
See, government is quite proactive with CREDAI. They are moving along with us. They've just introduced ease of doing business, where they propose to sanction the plans and other sanction at single window system. So that is the ease of doing business is one of the most important things we look forward in a real estate environment, where sanction processes used to take a lot of time, getting our permissions earlier. If we are able to do it in a single window, we save a lot of time and unnecessary moving around. That is the main thing we are looking forward to.
Mr. Chopra, we would like to really hear your views on this. What support do you think the government can do to sustain? I mean, not only residential, but mass housing. It could be logistics. It could be any vertical where what government policies or what the government can do to sustain this demand.
See, I think the biggest challenge and the demand can come from the people, and the beautification of the city can also happen if the government come out with a concrete plan for development of the slums. The Bombay people have been able to do it. Now Calcutta has also a lot of slums. They were actually thinking of converting all those tika tenancy properties into ownership, give the ownership to the local, the people who are staying there. Now, if they can make a workable policy, it will be a good opportunity for the builders. There'll be good demand from these people because there's a question of giving higher FSI and also, subsidizing to some extent. So I think the government should think of somehow, making these slums, redevelopment of these slums possible. And if that happens, there'll be great demand because these people, the city will become beautified, and also there'll be a great opportunity for the real estate fraternity. This will be a great opportunity. I think this is where they should focus and work. This is the need of the hour.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, they have a very successful model in Mumbai that they follow, and it has really changed the landscape of Mumbai. So coming back to Mr. Parakh, how would you approach the government, or what do you think the government could do?
Yeah, I have been saying always.
Not approach, but the government can do more to,
No, I would see government have been doing, but let me tell you, and you know it better than me, and all of us know. But the thing is, Calcutta surrounding, let us put it like this, has the cheapest land in any metropolitan cities, which we all will agree. Whether you go anywhere, I mean, 10 kilometers, 7 kilometers, 8 kilometers from Calcutta, you have the cheapest of land. Now, how do you make an affordable housing? You can make an affordable housing if the land is affordable, correct? So how the land will become affordable? If you are able to build on it, how do you build on it? I mean, the land issues, the conversion issues, the land ceiling. I mean, I am saying a larger context. There could be political issues, there could be principal issues, there could be X issues. But without the land policy of the government, you can't really have a great thrust to the real estate. We have been managing one way or another, but managing in a professional manner, whatever the laws are, the aggregating of the lands and so on and so forth, then the conversion, it takes time. When it takes time, it adds to your cost, and everybody can't do it. Everybody doesn't have an infrastructure. So government has to come up with a composite land policy, I think, in consultation with obviously the real estate developers and other stakeholders, so that the real estate, I mean, we all say that real estate is an industry, but have like you always say there is an industrial policy. Do we say that we have a land policy? So unless, see, we are biggest contributors to the revenue. I mean, we all know, either in GST or the stamp duty or the corporation tax, the labor says A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z. Okay. Now there has to be a policy. Once the policy becomes clear of conversion, amalgamations, you know, take an example, small thing. Once you do a Sali land, get it converted. If it is bought in the name of a private limited company, the circle rate goes up, the cost goes up. I mean, if the cost goes up, how do you make it affordable? The margins are less. How do you develop the city then? This is very important. So there has to be a policy, and the government can do wonders. Let me tell you, they are the people who can really give us a thrust, you know. So a lot of things, you know, you see example of a reduction in stamp duty and reduction in circle rate. We have seen huge amount of registration taking place. We have seen huge collection by the government. They have extended it very well. We appreciate that. Ease of doing business, yes, these are post factors. We appreciate that. But the land policy has to be there. The conversion policy has to be there. The big lands are with industries or with Sali. How do you convert it? And if you are not able to do it, how do you develop the city in and around?
So the government did come up with a 6.3 notification to make it easier for lands to be converted. Of course, the fees are very high.
Sir, let us put it like this. If I had a land or a factory, and if I have to pay 25 to 35% of the market value to convert it, why should I mean, is it viable?
Exactly. So
either you convert it reasonably or put certain conditions, but paying the market value is not feasible. I mean, and where the circle rates are very, very high. We all know it, but I don't know whether we speak it or not, but we are all aware of it.
So you know, the real estate industry.
I am not for a moment. I am not even saying that don't put a restriction on conversion of factory properties. But then if the government must consider from case to case that, but paying 25 to 35% of the market value for a closed industry because of one reason or another could be a huge cost. I mean, the thing doesn't remain viable.
Okay. So, Mr. Saraf, I think you had successfully converted a lot of factories and made some very beautiful products. So, what has been your experience? What more, you know, you think could have been done so that it would have been easier for you? I think you're mute. I think you're on mute.
I feel that, you know, there should be a clear-cut zoning policy because, you know, we buy lands in different areas. So certain areas, they're classified as on the porcha as agricultural or for other uses. But if the government has a clear-cut zoning policy, then we know that this zone is earmarked for this purpose. So that will help us, you know, in a transparent way that if we acquire land in this particular area, it is earmarked for this purpose. So there is no ambiguity, and that conversion can be automatic or can be done quickly. My experience is, you know, that it's a long drawn out process to convert industrial plots to residential, and you know, even within the city or within the municipalities, it is a rather difficult process. Although, you know, you cannot run a factory within the city because of the pollution and other factors. So if we have a clear-cut zoning plan, that would help a lot in this regard. And the other thing the government can do, you know, to facilitate real estate, which my co-panelist made certain very good observations. But another thing they could do is, you know, provide the infrastructure. because the government is an enabler. So if they provide the proper infrastructure, especially in the suburban areas, like the proper roads and drainage and water supply, then it would be much easier to develop those areas, because we are developing in lot of distant suburbs. So we find in some areas there is no road, we have to make the road, or the road comes up subsequently. In the sanction fee they charge for the road, but they make the road at the end of the project, so it's very difficult to construct that project. So if they take a more proactive stance on the providing the infrastructure, that could aid the industry to a great extent.
Okay. No, definitely. And also, we last around 10, 15 years back, we had that PPP model of development in Calcutta. So, Mr. Patodia, how do you think, was that model a successful model, and should the government relook at bringing that model?
I don't think that model was that successful, because main ingredient is land. So in that PPP model, if the government is giving the land, then it is successful.
Okay. So at this moment, you don't see this model working because the government is absolutely.
No, this model will work if the land is given along with the partnership.
Okay.
Parvez, I can put in a word on this, because we have done a 30-acre project on PPP mode with ADA, Government of West Bengal, in Asansol.
Okay.
So they floated this as a public tender, and we backed the project, and we have successfully completed the majority of the project. So there were some advantages, like we did not need to take any ULCA or ULCA clearance, but what we found was that they are less proactive. Like, even if they have given you the project, then whatever difficulties you face, they should be more proactive.
Okay.
So we felt that after we took the land, it's like a purchase only. We did not get the feeling that it's a the government is interested in helping out. So, but of course, the land acquisition of a 30-acre parcel is very difficult otherwise. In Bengal, we know how many land issues there are there. We are seeing in Rajarat, if you buy a land parcel, large parcel, something or the other will crop up. So those issues were not there, which is an advantage. But the proactiveness was lacking.
So the government has, if we look at the ITS industry, if we look at sector 5, the government has been proactive and has given a lot of leverage where you can come in and jointly develop. So I think what the government needs to is to extend that to non-IT, other commercials and residential as well. Especially for affordable housing, I think it would be a good boost, or a great support if the government can come in, because the land pricing can be controlled in that way.
If I can add one thing, when I said about the land policy by the government, that the PPP was a model where the land is given to you as a subsidized rate. And the government is obviously a stakeholder. You make it for LIG, you make it for MIG, and then you have HIG, right? Now, once the government have stopped that policy for the time being or whatever, there can be a land policy by the government where builders can take a larger chunk, get it registered with them, and create the same model in a private manner. And that could be probably regulated through a policy by the state, right? So in that case, the private sector can do the same thing, but not in a PPP model, but on the same format. There you can facilitate for conversion, there you can facilitate for maybe, not insisting upon urban land seeding or giving it because you are giving it for LIG and MIG and so on and so forth. There could be certain restrictions, there could be a policy. It will really help. I think all of us, and including people like you, must make a white paper and place it to the government.
Because Calcutta, you have so many close factories, you have so many potential. In fact, right in the heart of the city, you have so many lands which are lying unused because of such policies, and nobody is getting by that. Either the government is getting any revenue, neither are the Calcuttans getting something good to see. So I think it will help everybody, all Calcuttans, even the government, if we can do something on this. Okay, I think that was quite insightful. So coming back on this, we heard this word now, proptech, a lot. So how do you think Calcutta, real estate, or how are you guys, investing in proptech? So maybe I can start with Mr. Chopra. How do you think proptech coming into play here, especially in affordable housing, to reduce cost?
See, any new technology is welcome, and any new initiative is welcome for. See, it's a really a shame that after 75 years of independence, we are still not able to provide, housing to all our families here, whereas this was guaranteed in our constitution. When we drafted the constitution, the housing was promised to all the citizens. Now, 75 years has passed. I think all the agencies of the government and the real estate industry should sit together and find a workable programs using all kinds of laws, enabling laws, the technologies, and all kinds of things to make sure that this dream is realized at least in the next 10 years' time. The way we have been able to create infrastructures of world standard, particularly the roads. I was hearing Mr. Gadkari the other day, and he said that in the next, by 2030, India will have roads as good as America. The network, the quality of roads, it will match anywhere else in the world. The American roads, we'll have American roads like it. So there were a lot of these roads will unlock a lot of lands. Because our problem is not you see, I was talking to Dr. Rana of ATCO once, and he said, look, even if the India's population becomes, let's say, 2.5 billion, and we are using only 2 FSI, and if you have to house every individual of the country, and let's say we give them 500 square feet each individual, we still have only used 3% of our land mass. So 97% land is still available. So 3% land is enough. But the problem was the lands are locked. They are not accessible because there's no roads, there's no access. Now that we have access, the lands are going to come. So lands, I think, will become available plentiful. So this whole idea of Urban Land Ceiling Act or Land Ceiling Act is all now becoming redundant because it's an abundant supply of land. Why should there be a ceiling? Now we have to also now find out other ways, which are impending or which are, coming as a block for developing these kind of housing state, which is the government policies and government laws, and of course the use of technology should be. There should be a free flow of technology between the two countries without any restrictions or anything which is happening. So I think if all the CREDAI and the government and the central government, the state government, we all put together and put our heads, I think this dream of providing housing to every family of this country, the way, who could have imagined that we will have roads like America, 10 years before, but that's now becoming a reality. We are seeing that it's going to happen. The same thing can happen for housing. And I think this is the way we should all put our head together and make it possible. I think we'll give a great service to our country and the people of our country.
So how open are we, to adopting PropTech in construction? Because there's a lot of, when a new technology comes in, there's a general, trend to not adopt to change. So, Mr. Saraf, I would like to understand how in your products are you using PropTech, or how has helped you in, reducing cost? So you're on mute again, please.
In view of the recent rise in prices, what we can and should adopt would be prefab and precast technology. It's not yet that much absorbed in Eastern India, but I think the future is that to reduce costs, you will have to look at prefab and precast.
Okay.
So that is the way to go about it.
So, Mr. Patodia, I would like to understand from you, in case you have used any,
To start with, we have started using BIM technology to identify the perfect quantity and of the material that needs to be used. So when we have the exact quantity available with us, that saves us a lot of cost in terms of the tenders we give to our contractors. And apart from that, my van construction is now we have adopted and is happening in a big way also in Calcutta. So that by that we are able to complete much faster the construction of our projects, and it's also leads into a saving of some steel and man hours because lot of processes have been eliminated because of that.
okay. Mr. Parakh, also would like to understand from you, how technology you've used to reduce costs.
No. Technology, I think, has become very relevant. I think we all of are using technology either directly or through our consultants. Now, earlier, once we have seen, I mean, let us put it maybe a decade back or 6-7 years, everything was done by an architect. Now, most of everybody's project, we have consultant. We have MEP consultant. We have separate electrical consultant. We have fire consultant, and so on and so forth. And they rely upon technology. And then we do have systems of verifying it. It really helps. It helps in becoming your design efficient. That is most important. There is a coordination between the design. There is no overlap. It really helps. The design, sometimes the designs are over designs. So you can catch it up. You become more efficient. So technology is going to play a role. And as we move forward, the technology is going to take over, which is very, very important. And we can't avoid that. And let us understand the technology of mobile phones. Everything is on palm. So since the new generation is taking over, the new applications are coming in, it will really help. And we have no option. I mean, we have lived our way, the old school. But going forward, I think we have no option but to get into technologies.
Absolutely. Can't agree less with you on that. So, of course, we have discussed the essential segment. So, apart from this, Calcutta being the gateway to the Northeast, to Southeast Asia, it has ports, it has mineral resources. What do you think, opportunities apart from residential? Of course, residential Calcutta has been traditionally been a landlord city, and now everybody wants to have their own house, and most of us were used to staying in rented houses. So that has, of course, given the fillip to residential in Calcutta. But apart from residential, what other opportunities you think are there in Calcutta for real estate?
Yeah, I'm coming back, but just to add one more point from my fellow friend is that the land policy is important. You know why? Calcutta has a different set of rules. You go to Sector 5, you have a separate set of rules. You go to Rajarhat, you have a separate set of rules. How far are we from each other? So there has to be a synergy. It is very, very important. And that synergy will also help in creating infrastructure. Infrastructure in terms of what the builder is going to do and what the government is or the respective authorities. Take an example of, say, JDA, the Jaipur Development Authority. The entire neighborhood of Jaipur is done by them. They create the infrastructure. They create the planning.
Okay.
And which Pradip Bhai told, that is very, very important. Once the infrastructure is in place, the development will take place. I mean, वो पहले अंडा आया कि मुर्गी आया वो वाला story हो जाता है. But anyway, coming to you, next is that see, Calcutta has been witnessing overall growth in terms of residential, of course, in terms of ITs, in terms of Sector 5, we have seen office spaces going quite at a brisk pace in last 1.5 years. We have seen Rajarhat Financial Hub is also progressing quite well. Warehousing, of course, we have seen in Kona Express. We have seen a small industrial hubs coming in, the hearts coming in. It is becoming more organized. So we are seeing overall growth everywhere. We have seen big complexes coming, the data centers. I think Hiranandani was looking at creating some data centers in East. A lot of warehousing. I think international players are also looking at, the Everstone, Indospace, looking at warehousing options in around Calcutta and so on and so forth. So overall, I think retail, of course, Phoenix is going to come up near, the Momentpur DH Road, going to come up with, I think, big retail space, about more than 350, 400 kattas. You people are there, so you are aware. So I think overall, in all sectors, we'll see growth.
If I can add, affordable office space will be also in quite a big demand.
Yes, the small offices we have.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a very good term. I've never heard that term. So what do you mean by affordable house? We have heard affordable housing, but affordable office space.
Yes.
Basically, it is smaller offices, grade A infrastructure, providing all the facilities that normally we provide in a residential environment. You're providing everything there, including clubhouse and conference facilities and restaurants and gym, everything under one roof.
So this is something like more of a the co-sharing spaces that we're talking about here, co-working.
It's basically it is like a ownership office, but half your requirement is available in the club or in the common area, so you don't have to buy a larger space.
So you have a shared common area for other
so you don't need to create extra conference room or video conferencing facilities which you use once or twice a month. You can go to the common building, club building, and do it.
Your common cafeteria or all this.
Yeah, then you have jogging track and everything.
I think this is one of the reasons why this this flex space and this co-working and all this is becoming so popular now. In fact, in Calcutta, we have had big multinationals taking up areas as big as 50,000 to 1 lakh square feet on a co-working.
Because it is a plug and play infrastructure is available. There's no botheration about other overheads like maintenance and who's going to open the office, close the office. Everything is provided for.
So your core focus is only on your business, not on admin and your security and your other stuff.
Right.
Yes, definitely. So, Mr. Saraf, what do you think? You did briefly mention in the beginning that warehousing and others doing pretty well. What do you think the other opportunities, where are in there in Calcutta?
So I'm finding, certain other areas where there could be good opportunities. Like recently, I was reading an article that Mindtree has taken about 1,500 professionals in Calcutta, and they have opened their Calcutta center. So as we are all aware, IT is on a hiring spree last couple of years. After the pandemic, there has been a boost for the digital AI ML. So there could be a lot of demand from IT because there's a lot of talent available in Calcutta, in and around Calcutta. So to tap that talent, I think the IT sector will do well in Bengal, particularly in Calcutta, in and around Calcutta. We are also seeing, there is a shortage of high-end apartments, because in the last couple of years, we have seen a very good movement in the sale of high-end apartments. So we are finding that from a position of excess capacity, now we are in a situation where, we need more high-end apartments. So that could be a good growth area. But of course, the issue of land will be there, because in the high-end areas, the land availability is very poor. Data center, my friends have already touched upon that. Another area could be suburban malls, whichever areas, which do not have, like in Hooghly, we do not have any mall in Hooghly right now. So in other districts where, the malls are not there, that could be a good business model as well to work on.
Yes, I'm sure, because these suburban areas have a very good cash-rich population. and they don't have an place
And
to
lot of
spend on.
large complexes are coming up, like in Hooghly and other nearby districts. There are lot of, because the land availability is there. So all the complexes, most of them are coming up in those areas. So that will lead to a demand for retail as well.
So coming back to Mr. Chopra, what do you think of other avenues where we can explore opportunities?
See, one of the greatest opportunity which is which is lying untapped till now in Calcutta is the development of the heritage properties. The heritage laws, are they're very, very coercive, and it's actually penalizing the owners of the heritage properties, and everybody wants to get out of the heritage listing. Now, and other cities like Ahmedabad, Jaipur, and many, they've incentivized the heritage property owners, and we are trying here also to happen here by offering TDR to the owners of the heritage properties, and that happens. We have 3,000 listed heritage properties here, and I have been involved in restoration of some heritage properties in Murshidabad and some in Rajasthan, and the response has been tremendous. Now, if the laws becomes empowering for the restoration of this heritage property, there's like, I have a friend builder in Ahmedabad, and he has done so far, one builder has done 15 heritage properties restoration, and very, very successfully. If that happens, if the law becomes enabler, there are 3,000 heritage properties in Calcutta city, which is to be restored and converted into, all kinds of things, very, very high-end boutiques or heritage hotels or heritage, shopping malls or something like that. It can open, first of all.
So till the times he joins back. So on this IT front, very interesting point which Basanji said, on the Mindtree thing. So Mindtree,
I think the number of heritage properties or colonial buildings in Calcutta is one of the highest in the world. You go to Dalhousie Square area, every building has a story to tell. And North Calcutta, again, there are a lot of heritage buildings which needs to be restored. And they can be easily restored. Only they need to do is to change laws. And I think if the builders see there is a profit and there's a sustainability and viability in restoration of that, I think most of the builders will be willing to do that. And that's a great untapped opportunity in Calcutta. And the government should do something to make it happen.
That is a really interesting point, because none of us has thought on those lines. And we did see some nice heritage properties being restored, and like the one on Kamak Street and others. But that's a really good thought, 3,000 properties, a huge amount for Calcutta. And Calcutta being a heritage city, there's a huge opportunity, I think, in this segment.
No, a salute to Pradip Bhai for taking up this issue. This is a very, very relevant, very, very relevant. All the authorities must inform and put this matter forward to the government. This is very, very important. A city is known by its heritage. You go to the old Bombay. Similarly, we have Calcutta. It's a very, very, very valid point, and I think we all must take it forward.
In fact, when you mentioned Dalhousie had lost its charm because in the office front because of numerous factors like infrastructure, parking was not there, and all that. But now I think with the metro getting connected and passing through Dalhousie, communicating will be much more easier and more comfortable.
No, I don't think so. I mean, parking has never been such a huge problem. I mean, let me tell you very, very frankly. I mean, you had created a huge parking space in front of writers at one point of time. You still have a lot of open spaces in and around, Dalhousie, where you can create parking spaces where you can park and the drivers can come back. But address one thing, which is very important. You must understand how to maintain a heritage building. We have seen some of the glorious Calcutta buildings which are housing maybe Calcutta High Court. many other buildings in and around Dalhousie. They had exposed bricks. They had stone pillars, the stone elevations. They have been painted, and that takes out the sheen, the exact character of the heritage properties. So everybody and anybody cannot really maintain. It is a technology. It has a you have to understand the how to maintain it. This is very important. Otherwise, जो अच्छा है वो खराब हो जाता है.
But I'm sure that means there are some flaws in the rules where there are certain guidelines.
No, rules and education both. Rules and education both. आज exposed bricks की property पे आप रंग कर देंगे तो obviously वो breathing खत्म हो जाएगा, उसका natural look खत्म हो जाएगा. How many buildings in London you have seen painted, the old buildings? It has the same flavor which it had maybe 100, 150 years back.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point which never came to any of us mind. And as CBRE, I can promise now we'll have a lot of business development opportunity there. So I think we're about time, and Sapna would like to have some comments from you.
Yes, we have few questions here. The topic is about the promising growth and the Kolkata market opportunities. So from our panelists, what our audience wants to know is what are the market opportunities? As Mr. Basant Parakh rightly mentioned, Kolkata is one of the most affordable metro cities of India in terms of real estate. So what are the market opportunities? Mr. Chopra, starting from you, what is the potential of Kolkata real estate?
See, the Calcutta real estate potential is huge for three reasons. One is that the real estate potential has been all through, had been dependent upon the migration from rural to urban areas, which will continue for the next decades. The affordability or the will of the people will keep on increasing, so they will go from smaller apartments to bigger apartments because they can now afford it. And also the population growth in India is still continuing, and therefore people are going for nuclear families. So, people, when the children are getting married, they want to have another house. And therefore, see, I'll just give you my example. When I started my career, when I was, when I got married, I was living in a 1,000 square feet flat that was rented. Today, I have got 6 flats, and my son and my daughter and my, everybody is having a bigger, everybody is in a 4,000, 5,000 square feet flat. So, in one, you take my example, from 1,000, the whole thing area I'm now occupied by my family is about 20,000 square feet. So this is happening, and this continue to happen. So therefore, and the Calcutta market is not very speculative. It is not driven by only investors. It is driven by actual users. And therefore, people always get value for money for their homes. So you're not very scared that you buy, suddenly there'll be a slump in the market and therefore your prices will break. It has never happened in Calcutta. The worst of the slumps, also the prices have been stable. So Calcutta is a very, very secured market for investors, and also the buyers who are also looking at these purchases as an investment option as well as the residential option. So therefore, I think Calcutta market has all the good things, and it will continue to, for decades, it will continue to grow.
Correct. The latent housing demand, as you mentioned, that the latent housing demand is huge, which we still need to cater to. Second, you said the migration, also the population is migrating to their hometowns, especially during COVID now with work from home and hybrid model of working. I think more people are going to, and the demand for housing, bigger houses, as you said, is going to increase. And also, again, it's not a speculative market. One of the biggest points that you said, it's not speculative, like other markets, especially, let's give an example of North. So, Mr. Basant Parakh, what do you think are the market opportunities? If there is an investor from maybe another city, or a developer from another city, or investor from global investor, what would you say Kolkata offers to them?
Let me tell you one thing, which Pradip bhai also said, is that Calcutta is a conservative market. we are very well connected to each other. Most of the builders, we know each other. We don't compete. We always are helping each other, and therefore you will see in last many years. Have you ever noticed a project getting stalled or getting defaulted and so on and so forth, vis-a-vis others? I think hardly you see anything. This is a significant thing which should be noted. Now we must also see, you are talking about why others are not coming, or they had come, they have moved out. We have seen a lot of big players who had come in Calcutta from Delhi, the Unitech, DLF, so on and so forth. They came, they went back. Why? We have to address the answers. I mean, not we, means the government has to see the answers. That the land policy, which is very, very important. They don't want to get into the hassles. You see about Tatas. I mean, I'm naming them. They want to get into a DM model. They don't want to get into the land hassles. You talk about Godrej. They don't want to get into the land hassles. They said, oh, okay, the private players should take it up. So once you want to have a big investment, either from the national player or the international player, they would like to reduce the gestation period. How soon you can hit the project, how soon you can build up. They don't want to hold the project because the holding is the largest cost. Sometimes the holding cost is larger than the interest, the land cost, which is very, very significant. You see, let us see small, the suburbans. The land is cheap, the cost is very high. So the national player and other players would always come if there is a clear-cut land policy, so that the projects are done at a very faster pace. But again, we in Calcutta also, the local developers have been increasing their volumes, and they are also doing projects elsewhere. The Calcutta people have been doing in Bombay, in other two tiers and other cities. And our quality has never been questioned. The Calcutta developers' quality has been one of the best. You ask anybody elsewhere in India, our quality has been, never compromised. The principles or the quality and the deliveries are not compromised.
That's right. That
is all right. We have not defaulted.
Yeah, that is very true. In fact, what you are saying is there are challenges which kind of keep back the investors or the developers from other cities or the pan-India operators. And that is one of the reasons that we are not seeing. Swami Fund, you spoke about that Kolkata does not have a lot of stalled projects or distressed projects. Mr. Patodia, talking about Swami Fund, that has been one of the biggest helper for a lot of developers. How do you see that in Kolkata? Have there been projects for Swami Fund? How do you see that?
Initially, in the Swami Fund, there was a clause that it has to be registered with RERA. So we did not have RERA in Bengal. So that's why the benefit of that fund was not available to the builders here. But now with RERA being introduced, and if and when it's operational, I'm sure a lot of projects will benefit from this Swami Fund.
You see that it's a good initiative for the industry. You see it benefiting the industry and the players.
It will definitely benefit the industry where there is a mismatch between the sales and the construction and delivery schedule. Will definitely help the projects.
That's it. Mr. Saraf, you spoke about the IT companies and all, now they are coming. How do we, because Pune, Bangalore are known as the IT hubs, to some extent, even Delhi. What can, what the Kolkata real estate or the Kolkata government can do? You spoke about that IT company should be here because then it also impacts the other real estate as well. In terms of developers, how are you looking at the IT market and the IT clientele for real estate?
See, first of all, I would like to tell you that Calcutta has a very good IT market because you have like Infosys has several centers where it's operating from Sector 5 and Rajarhat. Infosys is coming out with a very big campus. It's under construction. Mindspace has recently come up with a center with 1,500 professionals. And we already have a decent IT hub around Calcutta. Maybe it's not, definitely not as large as Bangalore, but you know, it's got a very good future because we have a lot of facilities in and around Calcutta, like the educational facilities, the ISI and IIM and IITs. Then you have very good social infrastructure, you know, all the clubs and the malls, schools, colleges. So, and there is no power shortage. So we have good quality of power availability, and we have and manpower, well trained manpower. Like you know, in every building in Bangalore, you will find one Bengali family is there. So they are going from here to Bangalore to work. So we can very well set up those facilities here and attract them back to Kolkata. So, you know, I think it's got a very good future, and we are seeing a lot of growth in the IT hiring in the last couple of years. So this could be a very good, for the future. And even, you know, this foreign companies like IBM, like, you know, I remember I have sold so many flats to people working in IBM and working out of Calcutta. So we already have a very good ecosystem. It can go up further a lot.
Yeah, I would like to add,
Yeah.
you see, we took over an animation company some 2 years back. We invested in that company, and we had about 150 heads working. And we were that time working as a subcontractor for a company in Bombay. In the last 2 years, despite the pandemic, we tried to attract a lot of Bengalis working in animation company all over India, Hyderabad, Gurgaon, and Chennai, and Bangalore, and so on. Now we have over 2,000 people working in our. We are the biggest animation studio in the Eastern India, and we are now catering to the clients of our prime focus was, for which we were working as subcontractor. Now we are directly working for Disney, we are working for Nickelodeon, we are working for all the top studios in the world, and they can't compete with us because the low cost of real estate, low cost of manpower, our cost is much lower. And this model has to be sold to IT companies that, look, if you come to Calcutta, you have much cost advantage than working from anywhere else in the country. And that will give a boom, because we had been able to prove it very successfully that now prime focus major clients are working, giving work to us, and we are able to compete. Prime focus can't compete with us on price points. So that's an example.
That's fantastic to know. Yeah, that's fantastic to know that Kolkata and West Bengal is coming up as the IT hub. Not many people might know this, that IT company, IT sector is becoming so strong there, as Mr. Ashok Saraf said, Mr. Pradip Chopra just mentioned. Parvez, you have the pulse of the market. So after hearing, all our speakers here, so what according to you is the potential of Kolkata real estate?
So I could not agree less with anybody, because if you look at Calcutta, in the pandemic, before the pandemic, you look at 2019 levels, the total absorption in the commercial real estate was around 65 million pan India. In 2020, it came down to 35 million. So the huge fall. It recovered partly last year. 2021, it went up to 45 million. Calcutta, for that example, though it's a very small market, we have been growing for not, even in 2020, we had grown, to 2021, we had grown. In fact, its total absorption around here is around 1 million square feet. Last year, we did 1.5 million square feet in Calcutta, in spite of the pandemic, which is a 50% growth, which is much, much above the national average. So there are a couple of factors, as I think most of you have mentioned, like the good infrastructure, you have graded developments here, you have a very good power supply situation in West Bengal. Another thing which has helped us in the pandemic is that the talent pool, across India, if you look at Hyderabad, if you look at Bangalore, if you look at Pune, I think the 20-25% of the talent pool is from Bengal. Now, with this work from home culture, the trend happened that people were allowed to either work from home or work from their hometown. So a lot of people moved back to Bengal, and that prompted these companies to have a center in Eastern India as well. Because again, when you're moving back to your hometown, the challenge is that we spoke earlier that you don't have infrastructure in the houses to provide that support. So they would either require extra room or something or a proper network connection. So they need to work from office, but in their hometown. So that is one of our bigger opportunities where we have seen this trend go up and all these companies coming in and looking at offices locally in Calcutta. So that has definitely helped.
Okay, fantastic. One last question to all our panel members. I think we have answered all the audience questions in our discussion. One last question, one sentence from all our speakers. Parvez, starting from you, what will shape Kolkata real estate in 2022?
2022, I think IT definitely. There's a lot of infrastructure work going on in IT. Mr. Saraf mentioned on Mindtree. So Mindtree is only the first center that they've taken because we were involved in the transaction, getting them to Calcutta. So they have huge plans for Calcutta. And apart from
IT sector, Mr. Khalid is saying something which will drive the real estate of Kolkata in 2022. Mr. Saraf, what do you think?
So just adding to that, Sapna,
yeah,
IT requires infrastructure in terms of housing. So the IT boom will ultimately, push housing demand as well.
That's right. So, Mr. Saraf, what according to you will shape the real estate of Kolkata in 2022?
See, Calcutta is largely a housing market because as far as office market is concerned, it's much smaller than some of the other major metros. So what I feel is that, you will see a lot more complexes coming up, lot more organized housing. Like you will have more of, large format projects. And I think, we are seeing a situation where a lot of expatriate Bengalis, they are coming back to Calcutta, and also from other towns in India, they are moving back to Calcutta. So we see a very vibrant market for these people for housing in Calcutta.
So are we going to see more township developments, mixed use integrated townships going forward?
I think it may not be, integrated or mixed use townships, but more complexes, because, we have seen a trend where people prefer to move into complexes where there is no commercial. After COVID, they prefer to move into complex, which is, say, fully residential. They don't want outsiders to come in.
Okay, so large format residential complexes, as what Mr. Saraf is saying, is what we are already seeing and going to see forward. Mr. Patodia, what do you think is going to shape the real estate in 2022 for Kolkata?
Apart from IT, like I agree with them, IT will be a major driver. I think row houses and villas going to drive the market further.
Okay, fantastic. So villas and row houses are something with what Mr. Patodia is saying are going to see a lot of demand. Mr. Basan, Parakh, what do you think is going to shape the real estate going forward?
We have seen overall growth. In Sector 5, at one point of time, we used to say that Sector 5, we have a huge unsold stock. It has gone up. The Rajarhat is going up. The suburban areas is going up. The stock in Calcutta has diminished. So we see overall growth everywhere, in warehousing, in HART, in industrial, galas like Bombay. We are seeing all around, everywhere. So not in a particular zone. So overall growth we are seeing in each and every sector, from warehousing, industrial galas, IT sector, retail, group housing, row housing, everywhere. So I think going forward, and with affordable finance available to the housing buyers, that and the population, of course. West Bengal has a huge population, educated population. The government jobs are there. So eventually we'll see the great thrust everywhere, starting from manufacturing, small manufacturing, MSME, and going leading to IT, ITS, and then obviously residentials.
Okay, so overall growth has been pretty good, but the little demand side push would be good for the home buyers. Mr. Pradip Chopra, what would you say? What's your views? How do you see the Kolkata real estate shaping up?
the cost competitiveness of the city will drive the growth. You know, we are competitive in every field, in office, in IT, in housing, in even the supporting infrastructures. You know, the Calcutta cost of real estate, the rental cost and all that is so competitive. There's no other city, you know, even if you compare Calcutta cost with cities like Raipur, you know, or cities which are not as big as Calcutta, we are still competitive in cost. So therefore, this will attract a lot of businesses, a lot of investment, a lot of people will come because of the low cost. I gave you an example of my studio. You know, we are getting businesses because we are competitive in cost. Why we are competitive in cost? Because the cost of real estate is less, and we can get away by paying less salaries because the housing cost for our employees is low. The other cost of the employee is low, and therefore Calcutta, as long as we are competitive, the real estate will grow because businesses will flow to areas which are most competitive in their cost, and therefore people will sooner than later realize the cost competitiveness of the city and therefore move in Calcutta city for all kinds of purposes, maybe housing, maybe commercial, maybe IT, maybe anything else.
Cost competitiveness is what Mr. Pradip Chopra is saying is going to make Kolkata real estate stand apart from other cities. I think, Mr. Khalid, we have had pretty good, we covered all the aspects of Kolkata real estate in this panel with our speakers. So thank you so much for bringing out all those valuable views from our speakers today. And thanks to our speakers as well for being here with us, sharing their views and sharing their opinions. What more can be done for the Kolkata real estate growth and tapping its potential? So thank you so much, Mr. Parvez, Khalid, for that wonderful moderation. Mr. Ashok, Saraf for being here with us. Mr. Patodia for being part of this panel. Mr. Basant, Kumar, Parakh for sharing your views, very valid views about land policies that I think a lot of people must be hearing and they agree with you. And Mr. Pradip Chopra for sharing your views and commendable, like you mentioned, that how your own studio is one of an example to attract talent back, the mind drain back to Kolkata and create a competitive city for others. Thank you so much, everyone, for being here with us today and sharing your views. Thank you.